Canada just takes down Tesla and Elon Musk? He didn't just react, he went wild.
At the same time, President Trump confirmed that the tariffs announced last week against our auto industry will come in and indeed have come into effect today.
What started as a quiet policy shift turned into a full-blown trade slap, rocking the EV world. In 2025, what started as a simple trade disagreement between two allies spiraled into something no one expected, an all-out economic firefight. And right in the middle of it all, Tesla. This wasn't one of Elon Musk's usual Twitter storms. It was a full-blown corporate crisis. One spark set the entire US-Canada trade relationship ablaze, and Tesla got scorched. In early 2025, the US, with President Donald Trump back in the driver's seat, slapped a hefty 25% tariff on Canadian-made vehicles and auto parts. The move was pitched as a way to protect American jobs, but to Canada it felt more like a punch to the gut.
And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
Why? Because Canada's auto sector is a pillar of its economy. Billions in exports, thousands of jobs, and now under threat. Canada didn't just complain, it retaliated, fast. Matching the US blow for blow, they announced their own 25% tariff on US vehicles. But it didn't stop there. Canada's strategy wasn't just about trade anymore. It was about power.
Control what President Trump does, we can only control what we do. Then we have an opportunity to tear down provincial trade barriers and also to tear down other kinds of barriers and trade with the rest of the world.
Here's where it gets serious. Canada holds some of the world's richest deposits of critical minerals like lithium, nickel, cobalt, and graphite, all of which are essential for building electric vehicle batteries. Canadian officials started floating new export taxes and quotas on these minerals. It was a warning shot wrapped in strategy. Disrupt us, and we'll disrupt your EV supply chain.
Say critical minerals or some critical minerals, but make it clear that there may be more export controls unless we see the U.S. side backing off on the devastating tariff.
The impact was immediate. U.S. automakers like Ford and GM started to worry. However, for Tesla, this was a direct threat to its future. Without those minerals, battery production becomes slower, more expensive, and heavily reliant on other global players, like China. Suddenly, Elon Musk's streamlined global supply chain started to look like a house of cards. Canada wasn't just tightening exports. It started rewriting the rules. New regulations were introduced requiring EV manufacturers operating in Canada to use a higher percentage of locally sourced materials. Foreign automakers, particularly American ones, were left scrambling to adjust. The message was clear. Canada would prioritize its economy over any foreign corporation, even Tesla.
How do we promote downstreaming in the electric vehicle space? Countries that have minerals want to have to be part of the electric vehicle and battery its value chain.
To add fuel to the fire, Canadian officials reached out to global partners in Europe and Asia. Countries like Germany and South Korea quickly jumped on the opportunity. They saw what Canada was offering, a chance to reduce reliance on U.S. supply chains and China's mineral monopoly. Then came the second shockwave. Canada's provinces, especially Ontario, started talking about cutting energy exports to the U.S. That meant oil, natural gas, and even electricity could be throttled. Premier Doug Ford hinted at reducing flows to places like Michigan and New York, putting U.S. cities on notice. Federal lawmakers went even further. A new bill, nicknamed the Energy First Act, gained traction in Ottawa, aiming to restrict energy exports to countries that didn't respect fair trade agreements. The U.S. was suddenly at risk of power shortages, literal ones.
We need to make it clear that we are going to shut off the flow of critical minerals. We are the only country that can supply critical minerals at this point. And we know that this is a particularly strong leverage point because one of the prominent figures in Trump's administration, Elon Musk, needs those critical minerals for the batteries for his car companies.
While American lawmakers scrambled, environmental groups in Canada backed the bill, viewing it as a way to build cleaner, more independent energy alliances. And Elon Musk? He was now on the outside looking in. In the middle of all this, Tesla took a direct hit. Canada quietly removed the company from all future EV rebate programs. That meant no government subsidies, no cash back for buyers, and no new support on upcoming models. Pending payments were frozen. Projects were paused. Tesla, once a golden boy in the clean energy world, was now being locked out. Even worse, Honda Canada pulled the plug on a massive EV project and blamed it on the chaos. Rising trade tensions, disrupted mineral supplies, unpredictable policies.
And new this morning, Honda Canada is putting its $15 billion Canadian electric vehicle plans on hold for 2 years due to slowing EV demand. So a spokesperson for the company confirmed today that
Tesla's Canadian team began warning headquarters in the U.S. that the situation was deteriorating fast. In provinces like Quebec, public opinion turned cold. Tesla was no longer seen as a pioneer, but as a disruptive outsider aligned with a U.S. government that had fired the first shot. Tesla's gigafactory plans in Ontario? On ice.
Months of the year as the automaker faces continued backlash over its boss Elon Musk's association with the Trump administration, sparking protests and boycotts of Tesla around the world.
Financial fallout didn't take long. Tesla's stock began slipping. Investors got spooked. Analysts warned that the EV giant could lose as much as $5 billion in future North American revenue if the standoff continued. Worse, U.S. automakers relying on Canadian parts faced rising costs. Consumers felt the heat with climbing car prices. The whole supply chain started to groan. Wall Street began asking tough questions. Had Elon Musk overplayed his global hand? Was this the beginning of a reshuffle in EV dominance? Even investors in SpaceX reportedly grew concerned that Musk's attention was being split between too many fires, some of which he helped light. Canada wasn't done yet. It unveiled a massive $43 billion countermeasure package aimed squarely at Republican-leaning U.S. exports, agriculture, appliances, and more. This wasn't just about economics anymore. It was political.
Is over. I reject any attempts to weaken Canada, to wear us down, to break us so that America can own us. That will never happen. And our response to these latest tariffs is to fight, is to protect, and to build.
Media outlets in Canada framed the move as self-defense, not escalation. And the Canadian public? Over 60% supported their government's tough stance, even if it meant higher prices at home. Tesla's public image took another hit when Canadian labor unions accused it of exploiting trade loopholes and resisting clean energy protections. Local infrastructure projects started cutting Tesla charging stations from their plans, citing trust issues. It wasn't just about cars anymore. It was about control. In March 2025, Canada dropped a hammer of its own, banning Tesla from its electric vehicle rebate programs and freezing millions in pending payments. Officially, it was about fairness. Unofficially, a shot was fired right back at Washington.
Canada putting a hold on Tesla in its EV rebate program. Canada's transport minister says Reuters, they say no rebate payments will be made, at least for the time being. So
then came the petition. Over 250,000 Canadians signed a petition to strip Elon Musk of his Canadian citizenship. Why? They said he was siding with U.S. policies that punished Canadian workers and clean energy efforts.
The petition in this country that's gaining speed and signatures. It focuses on Elon Musk, a call on the government to revoke his Canadian citizenship and passport. Elon Musk's mother was born in Regina.
And Elon? He didn't stay silent. In a now-deleted tweet, he fired back, "Canada is not a real country." That one line lit a wildfire across Canadian media. Headlines screamed betrayal. Politicians called it an insult. Online, the memes were brutal. Suddenly, Musk wasn't just the CEO of Tesla. He was public enemy number one north of the border. The consequences didn't stop at the border. European and South Korean companies began approaching Canada for exclusive trade deals, eager to tap into its rich resources. Meanwhile, American companies scrambled to repair relationships or seek alternative suppliers. The EV market now fractured.
And China may be changing its tune about trade with our country. The ambassador to Canada says his country is interested in stepping up trade with Canada while criticizing the U.S. trade war for hurting the...
With China already controlling most rare earth supplies, Canada's showdown with the U.S. added another stress fracture to the fragile global supply chain. Tesla's empire is wobbling. Canada just hit where it hurts: autos, minerals, and energy. And the ripple effect? It's not just shaking Wall Street, it's echoing through Washington. Elon Musk may rage on Twitter, but no tweet can fix a broken supply chain. The question now isn't just how Tesla survives, but whether the U.S. can afford this trade war at all. Because this time, Canada isn't backing down.